Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. We have Dr. Peter Osborne talking about intermittent fasting for gut health and autoimmune issues. So, question number one. So, do you personally do intermittent fasting? And if you do, what kind of window of eating do you prefer?
Well, I intermittent fast every day. So my window is usually early dinner, late brunch / lunch. So generally I won't eat past 6 p.m. and then I won't eat again until usually around 10 the next day. So it's generally a pretty extended, at least 16 hours is what I like to shoot for.
So you usually eat in an 8-hour window, and 10 to 6 is kind of the window that you love to eat in.
Yeah, it works for me because I get up early, I can work out, and then I'm not really hungry. I can go a couple hours, get to work, and then have my meal as the day progresses.
So question number two, talk to us a little bit about the science of what's happening in your gut when someone's fasting.
Well, so there's a lot of science on what fasting does, and there are different fasting strategies, and we're really focusing on intermittent fasting today. So the key with intermittent fasting for most people, and again, depends on where your health background is or where you're coming from, because the average American, probably the average person watching this summit, has either very little information about fasting or really very little information about nutrition. And I don't want to put everybody in the same box, so if that's not you, I apologize. But point being, the average person eats food that is either very unhealthy for their GI tracts in general, meaning they're eating foods that are highly processed. They're eating, whether they think they're eating foods that are highly processed or not. If you eat bread, you're eating food that's highly processed. If you eat things out of a package or a wrapper, you're eating food that's highly processed. And so what happens is a lot of that processed food contains chemicals, preservatives, additives, contains other ingredients like microbial transglutaminase or meat glue that makes it very, very hard to digest. You couple that with what most people's staple foods are in their diet today, which are predominantly grains. And grains are seeds, which are really hard to digest. And so if 50+% of your diet is coming from hard to digest foods or from processed food, what ends up happening is your gut has to work twice as hard to negotiate the vitamins and the minerals out of that food so that it can get to them, absorb them, and expel the waste. So it would be like asking your body to work out, to go to a CrossFit gym and work out, not just one workout today, but work out consistently all day long, right? Without a break, without any rest. And that's what happens to a lot of people's guts is they overwhelm their GI tracts. So their GI tracts are always having to work, with always having to work overtime. So there's this kind of breaking point that happens for a lot of people where their guts can no longer take on, the brunt of what they're trying to make it do. And this is where fasting can be extremely beneficial, because what it's actually doing is it's formulaically giving your GI tract rest, right? Just like if you were to go work out your biceps or your legs at the gym, you wouldn't want to work them out today and then 2 hours from now and then 2 hours from now, the way people eat meals, right? The way people eat meals is they eat generally consistently throughout the entire course of the day, whether it's 3 square meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or whether you're throwing in snacks, because that's been the trend for the last 20 years is to eat 6 small meals a day to keep your metabolism going. Like that's the myth, right? But the reality is without a break, your GI tract loses its resiliency to break the food down and to digest it. And so it starts to falter. And this is why we have epidemic GERD, gastroesophageal reflux. This is why we have epidemic irritable bowel syndrome, people with constipation and or diarrhea, because their guts are just broken and not capable of doing the extra work that they're demanding of their GI tract. And a lot of people, when their gut has symptoms, then they start throwing medicines in there like Tums or Rolaids or Nexium, and even take it apart from the symptoms that maybe they're not having gut symptoms. Maybe they have other types of problems like pain where they take ibuprofen, or they have allergies, so they're taking an antihistamine. Look, all of these medications affect the GI tract. So like if you're taking pain medications, it strips away the mucosal barrier of the GI tract, and then your gut starts to break down. If you're taking antihistamines, it suppresses stomach acid formation. So now you can't digest your food. And if your food's already hard to digest and now you're suppressing your gut's capacity for digestion, what ends up ultimately happening is an even worse scenario, because then that food just sits in you. And when food sits in you and it's not being properly digested, it putrefies, it rots, feeds the wrong bacteria, helps yeast overgrow, breaks holes in your gut lining, and creates this intestinal hyperpermeability that allows for byproducts that are supposed to be coming out in your poop, right, waste, and allows that stuff to enter your bloodstream and go systemic and create systemic inflammation, and potentially lead to very bad problems like autoimmune disease. So we want to give our gut rest. I say all that to say we want to have programmed rest for our gut, just like we have programmed rest for our brain. You go to sleep at night, you let your mind rest, you let your body rest. Well, during the course of the day, most people never give their gut a break, and the only fast they get is the 6 or 8 hours of sleep that they get on a nightly basis.
Hey guys, if you want to try one of these necklaces, if you want to try any of these EMF tools, go to essentialenergy.us and use coupon code Chantel Ray for a huge discount. That's essentialenergy.us. So you guys know I've interviewed women all across the country that have been naturally thin their whole life with no dieting, no gimmicks. I interviewed over 1,000 women. I asked them, what'd you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And they told me everything. And so I actually have written 4 books now with all of these insights. I have put their secrets all right there. And so if you're tired of just the diet roller coaster and you just cannot lose that weight, I have a book called Waste Away. That's the very first one. That's how I break down how I discovered intermittent fasting, how it changed my body, and how thin eaters, they don't even call it intermittent fasting. They just do it. Fasting to Freedom is another book I wrote. It goes deeper. It's more into the spiritual and emotional side of fasting. It brings clarity and confidence, and it really kind of teaches you how to do a little bit longer fasting. Then I have One Meal and a Tasting. It's my most practical guide. It just walks you step by step through how you can live a sustainable fasting lifestyle and literally the exact things that these women did while enjoying the foods you love. And then finally, a Bible study that's called Freedom from Food. And this is like a 6-week study that you can do with a group of friends. It's really fun to do with a group. These books are the complete bundle. So if you go to chantelrayway.com, we're actually doing one free giveaway for the complete bundle. So if you go to our Facebook group, it's the Intermittent Fasting and OMAD group, make sure you join. We're going to do a free contest for a free bundle for one lucky person. But if you want it right away, just grab the free bundle. It's the cheapest it's ever been because we want you to get your breakthrough, your body, your rules, your breakthrough. chantelrayway.com. And question number 3. So talk about the importance of stomach acid and why all these people are feeling like they need to take Tums.
Well, most people feel like they need to take it not because they have too much stomach acid, but because they've eaten their stomach into a state of hyperinflammation and they're not producing enough stomach acid. See, the symptoms of too much stomach acid and the symptoms of not enough stomach acid are the same. They both feel like acid reflux. What's funny is in medicine, and even if you are taking it over the counter, but a lot of people go to their doctor saying I have reflux and then they get a medicine, right? But there's no objective test that doctors run to say your stomach acid's too high or your stomach acid's too low. They generally just make the assumption that it's too high if you have the symptoms. So then they put you on stomach acid suppressors, right? And the problem with that is stomach acid's necessary for a lot of different things. So one of the most important functions of stomach acid is it's a part of your immune system. So when you eat food, doesn't matter where that food comes from, it's going to have bacteria, it's going to have potential poisons in it. And part of the job of the stomach is to neutralize those bacteria to prevent you from getting an inoculation of an infection down in your GI tract, right? So that stomach acid helps to protect you from things like bad bacteria, from viruses, from potential fungus or yeast, and that are in your food naturally, right? Because these things are in our food naturally, and they're supposed to be there. Our stomach acid is just designed to help neutralize it, right? But one of the other functions of stomach acid, very important, is to break down protein. Now, protein is if we break down protein into smaller constituents, those are called amino acids, right? And so the amino acids are kind of the fundamental building blocks and molecular workhorses of our biochemistry. And you have about 20 different amino acids that your body needs. You have 10 of them that are essential, which you have to eat from food. And so if you're suppressing your stomach acid with Tums, Rolaids, or prescriptive medications, what's happening is you're not breaking the protein down as effectively. And again, when you don't break protein down, It putrefies. Okay, it putrefies. That means it rots. So imagine, and you could set food out on the counter and you leave it out long enough, it's going to rot, right? So let's take the person who suppresses their own stomach acid. Their food is rotting in their gut. They're constipated, so that food is not being pushed down. So it's just kind of hanging out. They're maybe having a bowel movement every 2 days, right? So they've got rotting food just sitting in their GI tract for a couple of days, releasing all types of putrefaction chemicals that are oxidative and that can damage the gut lining. So it's a very bad idea, again, to suppress your stomach acid unless you've confirmed through pH endoscopy, where the doctor had you swallow a pill and they measured the pH of your stomach, and your pH of your stomach was highly, highly too acidic. Remember, the average pH of the stomach is around 2.5. So the stomach is supposed to be acidic. Where people have symptoms of reflux is when they damage their stomach lining, creating an erosion of that mucus. The mucus is like a coating that prevents the acid from damaging the underlying cells. And so, for example, if you pop ibuprofen or naproxen, okay, or any other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, including aspirin can cause erosion of the lining of the GI tract in baby doses. 1/10 of the dose of a baby aspirin can cause your stomach to begin bleeding because it's tearing a microscopic hole in the mucosal lining of your tract. And how many of you out there were told by a cardiologist, take an aspirin a day to reduce your risk of heart disease? And now we're finding now that all that advice for the past 30, 40 years about aspirin has been wrong, right? And so those of you who still have that mantra, that belief, I'm saying this today because I want you to understand that if you're doing that, you're destroying your GI tract lining, particularly your stomach and your upper small intestine, and you're subjecting yourself to express or experience the symptoms that doctors might misdiagnose as heartburn or acid reflux, when in actuality your acid levels are either too low, or that problem is not because you're making too much acid. That problem is because you're doing something that eroded your stomach lining.